Welcome to LifeHerStyle, a podcast for Christian women who are ready to live boldly for Christ in every season of life. I'm your host, Kari, pastor's wife, ordained minister, toddler mama, and truth-speaking friend. Whether you're navigating motherhood, ministry, marriage, or your God-given mission, you'll find inspiration rooted in scripture and stories that point your heart back to Jesus. Tune in each week as we explore faith-filled living through the stories of ordinary women doing extraordinary things for Christ. Because her style of life, it's set apart. Let's do life her style.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the LifeHerStyle podcast. Things look a little different right now because for one, it's just me here. I don't have a guest today. And number two, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm actually doing this podcast again from my couch. It is a Saturday afternoon. It is our quiet time, so we've kind of set a rhythm in our house that we have an hour-long quiet time after lunch. So I get quiet time, my husband gets quiet time, and our daughter gets quiet time. And so I'm using a portion of that to film this today on this Saturday. And I wanted to, first of all, start doing a few more topical podcasts in between some of the interviews that we're doing, because obviously the stories that we're hearing are so powerful, and I feel like we need to hear more of these stories from other women. And then also, I want to really dig in deeper to certain topics that affect us day to day. And so today's podcast is on what God is teaching me about rest. I am airing this podcast before a 2-week rest of my own. So for the next 2 weeks after this episode airs, I'm going to be taking a break from the podcast. And then we'll come back with some more guests and some more topics. Actually, during this time that I'm taking a rest, I'm going on probably my first retreat without our daughter. A friend of mine and I are going to a women's retreat for the state of Missouri for our denomination. And the last day, I'm actually on a panel and we're talking about rest. The theme of this weekend getaway will be about rest. And so to prepare my heart and my mind, I am actively looking at this topic and realizing there are a few things that God is leading me to in this season of motherhood and this season of ministry, and I'm wanting to embrace those things. And so I just wanted to share with you a few of the things that God is teaching me about rest through this season of my life. Rest looks different for everybody, especially when we're talking about like a biblical rest or a Sabbath rest. Looks different for everybody because we're all kind of in different seasons of our lives. Some of us are mothers of small children. Some of us are in retirement. Some of us are single out there, maybe haven't really even started building a family. And so it's going to look different for everybody. But the thing that we have to focus on is setting aside time to focus on the Lord, to be with the Lord, to be present with the Lord, and allow the Lord to pour into us, regardless of the season of life that we're in. And quite frankly, this season of my life, it's a little more difficult to get in the kind of rest that I would typically want to get in because there's so many responsibilities to take care of over the course of a day and a week and even a month. And so we've had to set up some intentional rhythms in our home to make that possible. And this quiet time is one of those times. So I'm able to do this today because this is a time that we've set aside every day to have quiet time individually. And it's really, really very good. So rest is something for me that I'm constantly having to kind of come back to and tweak a little bit so that I actually intentionally have some rest. And here's the thing that I really want to drive home during this podcast episode is that the rest that I am speaking about is rest that refocuses our attention from work and responsibilities and action to the Lord. Rest is a means of self-care. And that's not the type of rest that I'm going to be talking about right now. God created rest, and it does help us in our physical bodies and our mental health and all of that. And I'll touch on that a little bit also. But essentially, what I want us to come to rest with the posture of, I'm doing this to acknowledge God in my life. I'm doing this to focus on the things of God, step away from the chaos of the world, step away from the noise of life, and focus on the Lord and the things of God. And if you read my Substack last week, I was talking about the prayers of the busy and overwhelmed. Because I have been in a season where I really wanted to lean more deeply into prayer. Prayer is something that we do multiple times a day in our home. We do it both together, and then we also do it separately. But I was like, there are so many things that I should be praying about and praying for, and I just want to tarry in prayer. And so I started trying to do prayer journals and prayer prompts and guided prayer, and it all just sort of felt stiff to me and cold. I wasn't really connecting the way that I wanted to. And I picked up a devotional book that my husband had gifted me a while back called 5-Word Prayers. And in that devotional, it's literally a devotional of prayers that are just 5 words long. And the introduction of that book was talking about how, we don't have to have that many words to communicate with the Lord and allow the Lord to communicate with us. And I was like, wow, like this, what she described in this introduction is like exactly where I am right now and my desires for my prayer life. And so I kind of go on with my day, and I just feel like the Lord was speaking to my heart and saying, the most sacrificial prayers that you can pray for me right now are those of silence and stillness, because I'm not quiet and I'm not still. All day long, I'm going, talking, thinking. I never stop. And, just literally just 20 minutes ago, I was rocking our daughter, and the whole time I'm rocking her, she's crawling all over me like a jungle gym. And this is supposed to be quiet time and still time. So I kept having to remind her, we need to be quiet, we need to be still as we rock. And she just kept going. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just want to hold her. I just want to snuggle her. And I can't, because she's moving around and she's talking the whole time, and I can't just embrace her fully. And I thought, well, how much more does God feel towards us when He knows that we're floundering, He knows that we're overwhelmed, and we just keep going, and we don't stop. And we keep talking, and we don't stop. And maybe He just wants to hold us. Maybe He just wants to embrace us so that we can feel His presence, so that we can be strengthened again in Him. And so I'm on this journey now of finding silence and stillness in my day and giving it to God. Not silence and stillness that's me sitting here still and silent and thinking about what I need to buy for groceries this week or what we're going to do next, but silence and stillness where I sit here and I just listen for God's voice, where I just think about God, where I think about all the blessings He's given me while I think about the goodness of God. And, I really feel like that is deepening my prayer life, because it is causing me to tell my brain to stop, tell my body to stop, and to really focus on the Lord. And so the type of rest that I'm talking about now is the posture of looking for the Lord, looking at the Lord, focusing on the Lord, acknowledging God in our life and in our space. There's a lot of things that we can do to rest. We could go out on a walk. We could, take a nice hot bubble bath. We can sit out on the porch in a rocking chair with a cup of coffee. Those are wonderful, restful moments. However, we can do that kind of rest and not truly come to the Lord. And without coming to Him first, we never receive His rest. So what I want to touch on here for a second, Matthew 11, and 28 and 29 and 30 as well. I'll read the whole thing. But I was reading this the other day because this is one of the verses that they're using for this weekend retreat. And Matthew 11, 28 through 30 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." There is one thing that we are called to do if we want rest, and that is to come to him. He says, "Come to me." And so you could take a bubble bath and not come to him in your mind and in your heart. You could sit out on your porch and rock and drink a cup of coffee and not come to him in your mind or in your heart. You can go on a walk and not come to him in your mind or in your heart. So your heart posture, your mind posture has to be, I'm going to stop all of these other things that I'm doing and come to him. And when we come to him, then it says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And I wrote in the margin of my Bible here, "The burden of the world is far more cumbersome. With Jesus, there is freedom and rest, because the world demands so much of you. It demands your time. It demands your attention. It demands your activity. And Jesus just says, come to me. And you're going to do things for my glory. You're going to work and have activity for my glory, but my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And so I'm challenging myself then in those moments of silence and stillness to actually come to him, not just to be still and silent because, hey, it feels good, or I'm learning for it to feel good, because sometimes it's like you have to resist the temptation to get up and move or to say something. But I'm learning to come to him in those moments, and that's what makes the difference. That's what's going to lead us to true rest in God, is when the posture of our rest is, I'm coming to him with my time, with my attention, with my stillness, with my silence, sometimes with my word, with my worship. But for me right now, it's in the silence and the stillness, and not forsaking the words. You still need to talk to the Lord, not forsaking the worship, not forsaking the gratitude, but remembering to come to him in everything, in the chaos and in the stillness. And so that's kind of where I am right now in this whole journey of resting, is finding those moments of stillness and silence and coming to him with those things. Now, I mentioned this earlier. One of the catalysts, and I mentioned this in the Substack, for coming to this was trying to regulate my nervous system. I can kind of get to the point where I feel amped up or nervous or anxious. And I know that those types of, or at least behaving out of those types of feelings, can oftentimes come across as frustrated and, frazzled. And I didn't want my daughter seeing that from me. I want her to see a calm, cool, and collected mama. And so far, I really struggle to show that side of me. And those are the things that our kids carry with them. And so I don't want to put that burden on her. And so that was number one. But number two, there are things in my physical body, in my season of life right now, where, my hormone levels are fluctuating because my nervous system isn't regulated. When we regulate our nervous system, our cortisol levels come down. And you've probably seen, if you're listening to this right now and you're a woman, you've probably seen so much information out there about, you can't lose weight because your cortisol is too high, or your estrogen or your progesterone or your adrenaline. All of those things are connected to your nervous system being regulated. And so as I'm reading about how to regulate my nervous system, I came across all this information about prayer, which the world would call meditation, but in Christianity we pray. but how that has a positive effect on your nervous system, and then has a positive effect on things like your hormones. And so I'm like, man, I need to start, really, really digging into prayer. But then when I realized what kind of prayers I needed to pray, that I needed to be willing to be still and silent and listen for God, listen to Him to speak to me, it made so much more sense. One of the things that we're also doing, like as a family in the morning, we pray together, and we pause for a moment in our prayer time together. And then after that pause, we tell one thing that we're thankful for that day. So we each go through one thing that we're thankful for. And those are always very peaceful moments to me. And then we move into our breakfast time, and we've started listening to it's called the Worship Initiative. It's through Shane and Shane. We heard this at one of these Shane and Shane concerts we went to. But their Worship Initiative is basically, inviting people to sing worship songs. It's a devotional. And so we sit at the dining room table in the morning and we eat our breakfast and we sing along with these worship songs. And it is such a good and peaceful and restful time. And our focus is on God in those moments. We're coming to Him. And that's what makes the difference. Because I can do a lot of things. I could go out on my own and do a lot of things by myself and, be at peace because I don't have responsibilities around me. But if I don't come to Him first and foremost, I'm not going to actually have the true rest that I need and that I desire. Another thing that I'm doing and that I feel like the Lord is teaching me is the importance of sleep. I'm a night owl. I stay up late. That's like the nighttime is my time of being by myself, but I can't say that all of that time is spent on coming to Him. Like it's spent doing other things I'm interested in, right? And so just realizing how much more I need to sleep. I need to actually lay before the Lord. And so one of the things that I'm trying to accomplish every day is getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep in a night and going to bed earlier and being able to get up feeling a little bit more refreshed and a little bit more rested. And the other thing that I'm doing, this thing right here, putting it away more. I used to wake up in the morning and scroll my phone, scroll social media. And I've stopped doing that. I was just like, something has got to change. And the way I start my day can't be scrolling through social media on my phone. But then also I'm not going to bed at night, laying there scrolling through my phone before I go to sleep. I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm trying not to be on my phone at all in the presence of our daughter because she notices that. And I'm also trying to put my phone down during these quiet times in the middle of the day, because if I don't, I will sit here for an hour and scroll social media and lose an hour that I could get of actual rest. And so these are just a few things that I feel like the Lord is teaching me in this season that I'm actively trying to do for Him, to come to Him in my heart and in my mind and allow Him to give me His kind of rest, because the world doesn't offer us the kind of rest that we need for our souls. There's just no way. All of this push on self-care, hey, go out and get your nails done. Well, that's wonderful and it feels good, but it's not going to give you the true rest for your soul. True rest for your soul comes from going to the Lord, coming to Him, and He will give us rest. And so I'm hoping today, wherever you're at and whatever season of life you're in, that you intentionally look for those moments to rest. And like I said, it's going to look different for everybody, but the posture of your heart and the posture of your mind has to be, I'm coming to Him. I'm not coming to this person or that person. I'm not coming to this activity or that activity and forsaking these activities over there. I am coming to Him. And so I'm going to come to him in his word. I'm going to come to him in prayer. I'm going to come to him, even in those moments where I have to do something as a mother, realizing that I'm coming to him and what I'm doing as a mother. If I have to tend to my child during quiet time, I'm coming to him as stewarding my daughter well. And so it just has to be an intention, a heart posture, and we're promised here that he will give us rest. We will find rest for our souls when we come to him. And so that's my challenge for you today, this week, this season. Come to him, and you will find rest for your souls. So I'm going to take the next 2 weeks and do just that. I'm going to come to him. I'm literally going to be on a retreat with my best friend. And I'm going to try to capture some video of this because we always have such a good time together, but it's kind of our first time being able to do this as parents. And so I'm just looking forward to time with the Lord, time to actually rest in his presence. And I really just challenge the rest of y'all to come to him because his yoke is easy and his burden is light, and the burden and the rest of the world is not so much. And so hopefully this will challenge you today. And until next time, 2 weeks, you should hear from me again. God bless.
Thanks so much for tuning in to LifeHerStyle. If today's episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Want to keep the conversation going? Come hang out with me on Instagram at LifeHerStyle. I'd love to connect with you there. And for deeper devotionals, resources, and encouragement straight to your inbox, join the LifeHerStyle community on Substack at lifeherstyle.substack.com. Until next time, remember, your life, your walk, your style. Do it all for the glory of God.